All right, so how many of you just felt really uncomfortable? Good, that was kind of what I was going for. Now, aside from just trying to make you all feel super uncomfortable, I also wanted to see what you would do in 30 seconds of complete silence. I saw some of you look at your friends. A lot of you check your phones. I can only assume to tell all your friends that you're currently attending the worst TED Talk ever. And I saw some of you in the back even look to leave. Rude, but understandable. Now, my question to you all today is not about why we cannot sit in silence for 30 seconds, but how can we take that silence and see it as an opportunity rather than an uncomfortable moment? Now, in order for you guys to understand what I'm talking about, I have to take you back to when I was younger, when I had one of the most life-altering experiences that a person can go through. This is my dad, and when I was 6 years old, I lost my dad to pancreatic cancer. Now, this experience changes a person in a not-so-healthy way. And this is important for you to know because as I grew up, I began to attach myself to everybody in my life. High school was probably the hardest time of my life because I was finally becoming aware of this loss that I had gone through. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to react. So I just latched on to everybody else in my life. My friends, my boyfriends, work. I always kept myself busy. I was never alone. And I liked it that way. Now, it's not, regardless of the experiences that we all go through, it's pretty universal that people generally don't like to be alone and in silence. We're humans. We're social creatures. We need and we crave connection. And society puts such a negative meaning around this word alone that when we ever find ourselves in a situation where we are alone, our immediate reaction is to reach for the cell phone or the TV remote, or in my case, the half-empty bottle of vodka in the fridge. I recently read a research study done at the University of Virginia where they found that of hundreds and hundreds of people that they tested for this study, 67% of men and 25% of women would rather induce electric shocks to their own body than be alone with their own thoughts for 15 minutes. Now, that seems pretty extreme, but if we think back to the beginning of this talk, how hard was it to just sit for 30 seconds without fidgeting? How often do we take 15 minutes to cut off access to our phone, internet, TV, friends, family, where we're just alone for 15 minutes? It's harder than we let on to actually allow ourselves this alone time. But really, what's appealing about being alone? Why would you ever want to do that? To me, there was never anything super appealing about being alone. The last thing that I wanted to do was sit in a dark room with a candle lit thinking about how I didn't have a father anymore, or how my boyfriend didn't love me enough, or how I was working a minimum wage job that I absolutely hated. Why would I want to do that? No, I'd much rather distract myself, keep myself busy, keep living my life. I'm fine with the way things are. Psychologists Christopher Long and James Averill talk a lot about this idea of being alone and solitude. They characterize solitude as a state where we are disengaged from the immediate demands of other people, a state of increased freedom to select our own mental and physical activities. Simply put, solitude is removing ourselves from any distractions in our daily lives and allowing ourselves to make our own decisions. Now, we may not realize it, but everybody in this room has so many opportunities every single day to experience this solitude, this disengagement. My whole life, I was given so many opportunities to experience this, but I never actually appreciated it until I was physically picked up and put in a place, an environment that was unfamiliar to me, where I was forced to disengage. Now, being picked up and placed in an environment that's totally new, living with a person I didn't know, my parents weren't around, my boyfriend wasn't around, I didn't have a job to occupy my time. I didn't really have any other choice than to get over my discomfort of being alone and really just embrace it. Now, the moment that I decided to embrace being alone instead of fight it, my whole world changed. I realized that being alone wasn't as scary as I had built up in my head. It was actually liberating. Because when you're alone, you realize that you're the only person that has the right to make decisions about your own life. You don't allow distractions into your head. You focus in on your own needs, and you do whatever you truly want. Now, as my life progressed, I began to accept all the little moments that the world had given me to be alone. And as a result, over time, I gained focus, I gained clarity, I learned so much about myself. I made decisions for myself. I learned how to follow my creative impulses and look at the world in a different way. And most importantly, I was able to form real attachments with people without having to latch onto them or use them as a means of escape from my own problems. We spend so much time responding to everybody's wants and needs and opinions in our lives that we start to lose our own way. Once we put all of that aside for just 15 minutes, we give ourselves the chance to be able to discover what we truly want. But we're not all just picked up and placed in an environment where we're forced to disengage. The truth is that there are people all over the world of many different ages, sizes, cultures, and points in their lives that know that this alone time is critical to their own self-discovery. They just go looking for it. And they all do it in their own unique ways. Monks, for example, believe that you can only really realize your true purpose through life through reflection and being alone. So they spend their entire lives in solitude. Author of the book Wild, Cheryl Strayed, loses her mother and her marriage is collapsing. And so she decides to travel the Pacific Crest Trail all by herself. Her solitude through travel helps her to find what she needs in order to heal herself. But we can't all just pick up our lives and travel the world or take a vow of silence. We all have jobs, we have careers, we have families, we have things that we want to accomplish. I get that, I do too. That's why this idea of solitude is so cool, because you can literally practice it in whatever way works for you. You can practice solitude through meditation, walking down a neighborhood street, driving in your car, sitting on top of a rooftop, sitting on the side of the road, sitting on a beach with a teddy bear, sitting on a swing set, sitting by a tree, or running through a field with a scarf in your hand. It does not matter what you're doing, as long as you're removing yourself from the distractions of your daily lives and giving yourself the chance to figure out what you truly want. You can have this solitude. And you can begin to discover answers to things that you probably don't even know you're looking for. In a world where opportunities are endless and everybody has an opinion on everything, figuring out what we actually want sometimes can be really difficult, and it's often crowded and clouded by this outside noise. Whether we're trying to figure out what our next career move is or what we want for dinner, that outside noise is always going to be there, influencing what we want. The only way to really find those answers for ourselves and find the clarity for ourselves is to not only accept the opportunities that we're given to be alone, but to appreciate them, to embrace them, and to not be afraid to sometimes go looking for them. Thank you.